not my problem. It's not my problem. When I feel every metal, and I'm pissed and I'm when I lie and I'm missing all of the time, but I'm never sure why I need you. Please let me shout.
Oh, I don't know why you're in there by yourself here, Derek. There we go.
Solo.
Yeah, you were in there solo. I
StreamYard.
don't know how that happened. I don't know why I did that. Welcome to the Prospect Podcast, part 2 for today. I'm Coach Schumann. I'm here with Coach D. And we have our great guest today. We have Coach Farrell, from head coach at Manchester High School in New Jersey. Is the youngest head coach in the Shore Conference in New Jersey. Has really taken over a program that had tremendously struggled for years. Ended up going to the playoffs the last couple of years. Some of those guys graduated, dealing with some challenges of younger guys coming up and now taking over that role for next year. So we're really excited to talk to him about dealing with some of those things as being a young coach and the highs and the lows. And so I'm glad he's willing to come on here and talk about it all. So welcome, Coach, to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Coach, if you just for the viewers, just because unless they pull up the old Coach Farrell episode, just in case they didn't, just give
the archives.
Yes, quick background. And obviously, since we spoke last, it's been a few years. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. Born and raised in Toms River, went to Monsignor Donovan High School, played for Coach Duddy. Won a B-South championship there in 2012. Played collegiately at Stonehill College from 2013 to 2016. We won the NE10 championship there as well. Got my master's degree at Syracuse. Thought I was going to work in the media industry, and it just didn't work out. I knew I needed to be on the sideline. I knew I wanted to be on the sideline. So I was coaching with Coach Fentz at New Egypt for 2 years in 2018 and 2019. And then I got into full-time coaching, full-time teaching at Parsippany in 2020. I coached with Derek Eatman, who's now the head coach at North Plainfield. Did a lot. I was blessed where he kind of trusted me to do a lot of different things, whether it was special teams, defense, JV, you name it. And then I took a lateral move to go coach with Coach Kaz at Shore Regional in 2021, where we lost in the state semifinals at Shore Regional. And I thought I was going to be at Shore for a long time. It was a great school, great community. I was teaching the media classes that I went to school for, and only really had like a 30-minute commute. But the Manchester job opened up, and at the time, my wife and I lived in Manchester, and I thought, why not? I knew I was ready. I knew I wanted to be a head coach one day. So I put in for it. And, sure enough, I got the gig in 2022. We started off 3-7. Young team, a lot of sophomores that year, had a tough schedule. Then we go 8-3 in 2023. We lose by 1 point to Keyport, who had a great team with Coach Glez. That was like a Friday at 1:00 game because there was a lot of thunderstorms that weekend. So it was a very, very close game, very good matchup in 2023. So we missed out on the division in 23. And then 2024 was kind of that year where everything clicked. The ball bounced our way. We had really good athletes who are now seniors with a chip on their shoulder. We ended up winning C South, the first outright division in Manchester history. We had our first home playoff game in Manchester history, only its third berth. We ended up beating West Deptford on a 40-yard field goal with 4 seconds left to win the first playoff game in school history. And then we went to Point Borough in the semifinals, and we're taught a pretty lesson that you got to tackle to stop the triple option and stop the run.
Yeah.
So we ended with an 8-3 record in 24. And then this past year in 25, look, no excuses, no explanations. We were 1-9. You can argue, should we have been in the division we should have been in? I don't care. You got to play the best you got to beat the best to play the best. And we were young. We lost a lot of talent from, the 22, 23, 24 season. So we were kind of starting all over again. And you could argue, oh, should we have been in the lower division? Doesn't matter because we lost those games too out of division. So it didn't really matter what division we were in. I needed to be better as a head coach, and the kids needed to play harder and take coaching. And I think we needed this year to go 1-9. I know that's like a cliche answer, but these kids needed to realize you can't just wake up and go 8-3 and win a championship. You need to put in the work, and the talent levels from different divisions in the short conference are different. We're a small end of a Group 2 program. We were playing Group 4s and Group 5s. We ended up, not a lot of teams can say you can end the season with a win. We did a close, gritty game with JP Stevens on a Wednesday night before Halloween. So we sent off the seniors the right way with a win. But I did a quick banquet, quick turnaround, and now we're on to 2026. So, I'm fine talking with whatever you guys want to talk about, but I don't shy away from this 1-9 season. It needed to be it needed to be had. I should have done better as a head coach. I should have put these kids in better situations. But at the end of the day, I think we needed that as a wake-up call, and I think we're going to be better for it.
Oh, you're muted. Your live stream. StreamYard.
No, I think I muted myself because I was coughing. So, that's human error right there. One of the first questions I have, because it's first of all, having been someone that's been in a program that's been, I don't know that I've ever been in a situation that wasn't a difficult situation, but although the last one until COVID, I thought I was in a great situation. I don't know, it's COVID that changed it. But I would say that I'm curious some of the things that you learned, because you had a lot of success. Like obviously your first year you're going to be turning it around, which is what you did. And then you really had the high of really rising very, very quickly, right? And then the difficulty of this season, like what were some of the things that you learned in that process, like for yourself? Because that, as a coach, like when things are, turning around, going in the direction that it went, which was like amazing. It's probably such a great high, right? Like you're like, okay,
absolutely.
You feel like you're Midas, like everything you touch is turned into gold. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay. And then you get, you have a season where you guys go up a division, and for people who don't know the short conference, they move it every year. So that could be a difficult part. I always say, before you answer, the hard part about the short conference for everyone below the highest two levels, I would say, is that what the short conference year to year changing does is it kind of puts emerging programs in a situation where they may not be able to get over the hump, okay, because you move up so quickly, right? I'm not saying it's right or wrong, because I really don't know the answer to these things, because I've been in North Jersey with the Super Conference. We used to do some things, and I did not like some things. There were some things they did that I really liked. But I think that could be hard, because when you're making progress and then you're like, oh, okay, now they may not be ready for that yet, right? You're like, when you're developing a program, you're like, you think of everything in stages, right? Like each stage, and then if you're not ready for that next stage for whatever reason, meaning you have turnover personnel or all that kind of stuff, it could be a difficult process, because it becomes like a re-education process for your team. And I think the way that Shore is structured, like those top guys at the very top, they kind of shuffle around a little bit, but they're kind of at that top level for the most part. Maybe somebody emerges out of nowhere 1 or 2 years and, it vaults right to the top. But that's very, very rare in the Shore. So you kind of get those guys. Everybody it helps them stay at the top to an extent too, because they know they're going to play good competition. They might have a down year, but they're still in that same. The other groups, everybody else is in a realm where they move up or move down very quickly, and I don't know that it helps them get anywhere outside of the middle, right? By the way, you could disagree with my philosophy. This is I got you. From an outsider watching, right? It's very hard to get out of the middle from that standpoint. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but it's harder. So talk about the challenges that you went through, because I want people to understand that, like, the losses, you're going to be accountable.
Mhm.
But part of it is you moving divisions, right? Part of it is moving divisions, changing the level of competition, which you obviously then have to adjust to
Yeah.
over time. So talk about all that kind of stuff.
Look, again, cliche. You got to control the controllables. We had a short conference football coaches meeting at Monmouth Regional a few weeks ago with the executive committee of the short conference, and they were just like, let's have an in-person Q&A so we can tell you how and why we come up with the schedule, the numbers we use, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not a math person. That's why I teach English. So I can't do the SI numbers, the group sizes, all that. Do I want Manchester one day in the near future to be playing in A South? Absolutely. That's the goal. As a group 2, we're in a weird place where, we're not going to be put in that group 1 division, but we're also not going to be, playing in the A division. But also, okay, if we're middle of the pack and we have success, let's put you in B South with group 4s. And now we're going, we didn't have success in B South. Now let's put you in D North with Asbury Park and Barnegat and Colts Neck. We're in the only division that has mixed Ocean and Monmouth County schools. Every single group size is represented.
Right. That's
besides
weird.
group 5.
Well,
Yeah. So we're kind of like
I
call it like the misfit toy division / we have a group 1 in Asbury. We have a group 2 in Manchester and Monmouth, group 3 in Barnegat, and then group 4 in Colts Neck. So, and Long Branch. So look, I'm not here to say the scheduling is right or wrong. I'm here to play the schedule that is given to me, have conversations with coaches that make sense for out of division requests. But yeah, like since I've been here in 2022, we started in the middle of the pack playing. I think Mattawan won our division with Coach Graber in 22, and then 23 we were in the lower division with Group 1s, and Keyport won that division, and then we moved to the middle of the pack, which I thought was a very competitive division. And I think we should be in a division with the Pinelands, Toms River East, Barnegat, Monmouth, Lakewood. Like, I think those are teams that are very similar to us from a group size standpoint. And just like all of those schools, we play great games. We were fortunate enough to win that division in 24 with very close games against Jackson Liberty and Pinelands and Lakewood and Barnegat, Monmouth Regional. But then because of that, now we're going to move you up to B South. With Brick, Central, Southern, who's a group 5 who won our division. That's now going to A South. But, you didn't win any division games. You're a group 2. Now we're going to slide you back to D North. So we've gone anywhere from B, C, and D. My Uncle Leon, Derek, our Uncle Leon always makes the joke. I didn't even know there was a D.
Right.
I didn't even know the short conference had a D division. And again, we'll play in H Central. Like, it doesn't matter what you name them. We're going to play the schedule we're given. Those are things I can't really control. I can try to control the out of division schedule as best as we can. And more importantly, how we're training these kids in the off season. So I know that's like, maybe not, I'm not going to sit here and agree with it because I'm not going to tell, I've never been an athletic director. I've never sat in these executive committee meetings. I'm not going to tell somebody who I've never done that job how to do their job. Just like as coaches, we don't like people to tell us how to be a head coach when they've never been a head coach. So I'm not going to sit here and bash something that I've never done before. And I can't imagine what it's like to have all these numbers thrown at you when I'm not a numbers guy in the first place. I'm just a ball coach. So
that's why I'm here.
It's just very different in the way that they do it, right? The year-to-year type thing. For the most part, like most scheduling happens where it's kind of a 2-year agreement, a home and home type of thing, and then you kind of reevaluate and kind of go where they do it different, right? It's year to year.
What makes sure harder is of the bigger conferences, like the super conferences that are out there.
Right.
It's the smallest super conference, okay, quote unquote. Okay, like they actually call the one North Jersey a super conference, but like the West Jersey, it's a smaller one. And one of the difficulties, I think, is that large regional schools dominate the landscape, right? So large regional, Mid-South, Mid-North, Southern, Freehold. There's a lot of them. Even RBR is even though it's a group 3, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, they're 3. 4. Wait,
but it's still a regional school. It's
right. They're pulling from multiple towns.
It's smaller among the bigger regional school, but so they dominate the landscape. And I feel like outside of Rumson, which is a group 2 in name only because of, kind of the level where they could have some players come into them and you can pay to go there and all that kind of stuff. And, but outside of Rumson, the smaller half, the smaller group 3s, 2s, and 1s they don't necessarily know what to do with it. So a lot of it is off of how well they did, right? A lot of it is like, you had a good year, we're gonna throw you in here and see how it works. And then, you had a bad year or a rough year, we're gonna throw you back here and see how that works, as opposed to solutions by group size and ability, which I think Super Conference in North Jersey does. I don't know as much about the West. What do they call that conference? The
West Jersey Football League. And going off your point too, like they're also geographical. So you're putting a lot of metrics into 6-team divisions. So you can be,
which is new this year.
I would say group size.
I would say divisions.
Group size is on the bottom of how
very much so
divisions. It goes
but that's in the grand scale of it too,
because geographic.
Like it's also
that is what makes it tough. So I'm curious, would you
the big algorithm, Dave, too? Remember how like PowerPoints and if you played a group 5, that has been like in the grand scheme of state playoffs, and that the emphasis on PowerPoints and group size has been diminished a little bit. Where
it's the OSI or whatever that
all of this like a number that's assigned to you based off of something. It's like, I don't want to compare it to the old BCS, but like it's a numbers thing, and it's not one that you can like sit here and figure out mathematically.
System either, because a lot of that's.
This will be like a 24-hour phone-a-thon if we try to figure out how to make everybody happy.
Well, that's the other part too. I think when they try to appease or make everybody happy, like what works for one causes 27 other issues.
And of course, look, when we go to these division meetings and these coaches meetings, of course I'm going to vouch what's best for Manchester.
Right.
Like as the head coach, you have to vouch what's best for your program. So of course I'm going to think about my niche and my community and my my group 2 team in Ocean County and what's best for us. I'm not thinking of the group 5s or the group 1s or the Monmouth counties. I'm thinking about what's best for the Hawks. And that's part of my job as a head football coach, is to vouch what's best for my program. And that's why you're never gonna get a right answer. I mean, I'm from the school of thought, like, why can't we, and I think I might have even said this, but like, why can't we just start over and do the eye test? Like, why can't we just start over, do the eye test, do it every 2 years, and then we go from there? Because I thought,
these groups look to be the best. Then the next,
like, I love the I love the Ocean County rivalries, at least for Manchester, playing Toms River East, Pinelands, Barnegat, Lakewood.
Geographic.
And we played.
Do you like geographic better? Like,
and you also, but I also think like the
priority, like for you, like
right.
Would you rather have geographic? I don't know. I'm just using geographic group size rating. What do you like? If you were like, do you like playing local rivalries more?
I do.
Well, I think rivalry also plays a role, Dave, right? Because Coach also grew up here, played here. Right. He's a traditionalist. Some of those old school rivalries still factor into what he believes should be happening, right? Whereas some new guys, that's not a factor for them.
So last year, 2025.
Like for us, Dave, like we didn't give a shit that RBR had to play Long Branch on Thanksgiving for 98 years. Like, no offense. Like, we wanted it to get to 100, then we wanted to be done with it to go win a fucking state title. Like, that's just what it was. Right?
Like, against Long Branch.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but like in Coach's mind, because tradition is like a factor, like that might be higher on his level than some other guys.
I agree. And look, 2025 was the first year in almost 20 years that Manchester and Lakewood did not play each other because we weren't in the same division. And then you have to do these out of division requests. You request 5 games in preference order of what games you'd play out of division. And sometimes you get them and sometimes you don't, and then now this year we're not playing Pinelands for the first time in a very long time. And that's a great rivalry that myself and Coach Tierney, and even before myself and Coach Tierney, because I believe we were hired in the same year before Manchester Pinelands. That's always
they got bumped up too. They're in our division
now. So it's almost like whether you put a team on your out of division request sheet or not. I know not everybody can get what they want, But to not play Lakewood and Pinelands these last couple of years it's kind of tough because those are great games, and that's great. Look, we're playing a division with schools. I don't know if Manchester's ever played a Colts Neck or a Long Branch we played Asbury my second year, but I'm also okay with that because, let's go play different schools. Again, we'll play anyone, anywhere, anytime. I'm from that mentality. I'm from that school of thought, and, it's never going to be perfect, and that's fine. It's my job as the head coach to get these kids ready for the schedule that we have. End of story. We can talk about SI and Gridiron and NJ.com and all this until we're blue in the face. But the fact of the matter is, as the head coach, I got to get this team ready for Toms River East week 0 and then New Egypt week 1. So,
I mean, I don't think any of these things are slam dunks. I think the Shore, just because of the number of schools and what you brought up, the geographic region it covers, which is all like you could be if you were where I live, we were to drive to Pinelands, that's a really long drive.
Oh,
right?
shit. Yeah.
So it's a wide range of geographically, and people from outside of the Shore don't really understand how such a wide range geographically these things are.
Damn near 70 exits in the Shore Conference. You go from 58 to 125. That's the big span of the Parkway.
And when you're in Monmouth, like where I live, like literally, there's a million schools within a very, very short area, right? So you would go, Mid North, Mid South, RBC, RBR, Freehold, Colts Neck, Shore Regional. They're all within like a 10-15 minute drive, right? And I'm probably missing some, so it is a different thing. Monmouth Regional, they're all right around St. John Vianney. If I could throw a rock to every one of these places, literally. Rumson, they're all all of them are within a 10 to 15 minute drive from where I live, right? Now, Lincroft happens to be probably like a central part in Monmouth County. Yeah. But literally every one of them is very close. Like if I wanted to go watch a game, I could watch any of those games and be there in I've done it in the fall. I was like, here, I was over there, and it was really quick, right? And then you get to Ocean, completely different. Like each exit is a drive. So there is a different element to it. Obviously, from my view, there's probably no right or wrong answer, but there are preferences there. I think that geographic, because of how far everybody could be from each other, should be taken into an account to a certain extent. And I think group size should be taken into account on the smaller school level to a certain extent, because now when you get to the bigger school, I actually agree that you know what, you're a group 4 or 5 school, you're a big school, you're a big boy, if your program isn't that good, you got to figure it out. You know what I mean? That's a huge school. Having coached at bigger schools and having coached at smaller schools, when you get to small group 3s, which are really kind of like the old big group 2s, and below, it's a different world, because you're talking a number of kids, enrollment. Absolutely. You're talking, it is harder. There are some places that have great traditions that are small schools. There's some places that are trying to develop it. It's a totally different one. And I liken it to when I was in North Jersey, when I coached at Powell Park, if they turned around and we because we were co-op, we were a group 3, even though when we were on our run, we were able to play with anybody. But I would say that wasn't always going to be the case, but we were really 2 group 1s put together. Right. So or a group 1 and a small
group 1 and group 2, small group 2
together. So, and the way the demographics were, it was mostly Asian, the 2 schools. So you had a lesser pool.
Korean, right? Wasn't it Korean? You had a big Korean.
Mostly Korean.
Driving through one of those towns,
had some great Korean football players, but it was harder to get them out.
But it was also you driving through one of those towns, and Korean is what's on some of the store windows. You know what I'm saying? That was a totally different beast.
So my point on it is, within the Super Conference, the one thing they did a good job was they tried to address geographic, some of the rivalry stuff like you talked about, and group size. So you didn't have like just craziness happen from that standpoint. It doesn't always work. You might have a group one that runs through everybody, like a traditional power.
Like a Shore.
Right. Maybe you take, or I was going to say Rumson as my example, right?
Oh, yeah.
You Rumson, you pull out of that mix, right? Because they can hang with it because of their situation. You pull a group like that out, but everybody else is not in that Rumson quote unquote situation, right? So you pull them out of the mix.
We had the honor of playing Rumson in 2024.
Yes, you did.
And we hung with them for a half. It was a great game. It was 7-7 at halftime. I'm like, woo, this is happening. And then you look at the final score, it's 42-7. It was just like that. They needed a halftime. We were good to go.
Right.
No,
but a learning experience for you, right? Like, but a big time learning experience and a place trying to get, like, aspiring to be Rumson. Like,
absolutely.
Right?
Everyone was on me for, why did you pick up Rumson out of division? I said, why not? This is the year where we're seniors. You know, we played a battle at the beach that year. I kind of wanted to, I don't know how a lot of our kids have been, south of Atlantic City. So that was a cool opportunity. We're going to play. Look, we're going to play, whoever we can when, again, I got to do what's best for Manchester that year. I don't know if a lot of people agreed with it, but we were playing Rumson and we got them on a Saturday night because of SATs that morning. So it was also cool. We were one of the few Saturday night games in the state. Yeah, I was just I heard Rumson and I was like, well, I was almost like fangirling a little bit, because it's like, yo, Rumson's at Manchester. This is kind of cool. Like,
yeah. I think,
but also like Derek said, I do we want to aspire to be in A South and be that one Group 2 school, like a Rumson or a Point Borough, that one Group 2 school that can hang in A South. That's the goal. The game is it's a sport of attrition where you lose players left and right, you lose coaches left and right, and people move a lot. I hope to be the steady constant at Manchester that isn't going to change so long they will have me, because I really am happy here. I don't have aspirations to coach in college, and I have a 25-minute commute, and God willing, I'll get tenure this year, and I want to be here for a long time. But it's a sport of attrition. You always want to move up, but there are years you're going to be playing down. And I believe in what we've done in recent years that we can now build off of that. And even last year, I want to use I don't want to just 2025 never happened. No. We're going to talk about it. We're going to learn from it too, because I'd be stupid if we didn't. But yes, the goal is to be the Rumsons and the Point Boroughs one day. I really do think that. And if you don't have those short-term, mid-term, long-term goals, then why are we coaching? You want to build something.
Or if you just want to continuously beat up on the guys you want to beat up on and do that, that's fine. And then when you get to the playoffs, you'll lose in the first round because your team's not prepared and doesn't understand what it's like to play against higher level competition and all that structure. And, you'll never build that callus on a team that can dial it up. And when they get punched in the face, will come back and do those things. I feel like you have to build that with how you play against better competition. And guys that just want to beat up on the smaller or the weaker or whatever that is, fine, you're a bully. That's cool. Win the division every year. But I don't think you'll be able to hang when it gets to the state playoffs. And you got to play some of these other teams.
And look, and South Jersey Group 2, you could argue, was one of the hardest brackets in New Jersey. Obviously, I'm biased, but you throw in Wall, Point Borough, Rumson, West Deptford, Haddonfield, Camden. Holy moly, just right there, that's tough. That's tough.
Right. No doubt. There's absolutely no doubt. And with the South winning every group champ this year, there's something to be said of hey man,
absolutely.
And Dave, we've talked about this how many times that since we've come down here, we've seen South Jersey football really come to fruition with, start to really battle with the bigs up north, right? Look, private school is always going to be that private school world of what that is, but you see teams that are down south, your Millvilles, your Winslows, these are teams now, buddy, that hey man, there's a different level of football being played across the state. Obviously, we're biased for what it is, but when it comes to the shore itself, it's really kind of. It's 43 football playing schools within it. And then you're trying to compete with the Super Football Conference and how they do things and compare and contrast. Look, the Shore has always been known for really good football. But as it gets, you get into the playoffs where now you're playing these other, and I don't know if a lot of Shore Conference teams are willing to schedule an out of like to go play a battle at the beach and battle with somebody from the north or whatever. And again, you have a different perspective having spent a year at Parsippany, right? Not an overall powerhouse, but in North Jersey. I mean, Dave, I remember him shooting me text messages like, hey, I got to play Mountain Lakes this week. And I'm like, buddy, don't get off the bus. Like, you know what I mean? Like shit like that, right? Because we understand that is.
And we also talked more than we did now because I was driving an hour 40 minutes each way. So we were
listen,
I was driving from Manchester to
the world,
Parsippany.
buddy. Yeah, I give you credit for that, obviously. But you know what I mean? Like you learned a shit ton from that, though. Like, right?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Look, Dave's worked
and
with
that was
guys
coming
that have
off
been
of a
at
year. That was
Parsippany.
working with Coach Eatman, who was a first-year head coach, coming off of Parsippany's sectional championship.
Greatest year like they've ever had.
Ever. So now, like, big shoes to fill, Coach Eatman, and bringing in this young guy who's like going to help you out. We never met before, except on the Zoom interview during COVID. During COVID, you know, he hired me off of a Zoom interview. So the first time I dapped him up was like during COVID pod practices. Like, you know, I think we went 4 and 5
which was the end of our world, Dave. Which was the end of our lifeline.
I never want to go back to that ever. What
do you mean? You don't want to sit on a spackle bucket with your number on it?
No, and I definitely don't want to get yelled at for like someone's mask being pulled down. But
we did win a game without practicing that.
Coach, can I talk to you? Sure. What's going on? 2 of your players had their mask underneath their nose.
Sorry.
Okay.
Your pod was one.
What would you like me to do about? What would you like me to do about it now, since they're all home? Do you want me to call them and tell them tomorrow when you come back, just as a serve as a reminder, make sure the mask is above your nose. Like I definitely never. And every coach obviously feels that pain who is coached. Knows what that was like.
It's an eye-opening year for everyone.
It was one of the it was definitely an eye. It taught me a lot about the world. But it's you're never too old to learn. But it's so I would love for you to talk about, though, like really what you learned going from like dealing with the highs that you had to some of the difficulties this year. What were some of the things you learned? What are some of the things you said, hey, I got to change this, you know, and this I don't need to change. Like, talk about that.
Derek knows a lot of it. I think you can almost call it an epiphany, if you will.
Right.
Even before the season, even before this past season when we were 1-9, I was starting to, I don't know if it's because I'm a father now, and personally, me and my wife and my family went through some terrible things over the summer that I won't get into, but it really like just, you know, forced me to look at myself in the mirror and what are we doing and what's really important. And I look back when I did your podcast, and I did a lot of podcasts, and nothing against you guys, because I love you and Derek, your family, but like
we should be the only ones, Coach.
You could be the exclusive. You could be the exclusive, but like we had way too many media days at practice. I was posting way too much on social media. I was going on way too many YouTube shows. I was more worried about extra ulterior motives, like outside ulterior motives that had nothing to do with the 4 walls of our locker room, and had nothing to do with me coaching my coaches and us growing as men, us coaching our players and making them young men. Of course, we want to win. And I think of course, everyone's addicted to winning, right? But then when you start winning, you don't want to stop, right? Like Tom Brady said, his favorite Super Bowl was the last one because it's always better than the last one because he knows how hard it was. It was just an epiphany, like, whoa, I need to slow down. It doesn't matter what we're posting on Instagram. It doesn't matter how cool our photographer makes the players look. You know, it doesn't matter how many kids we have all division. You know, it doesn't matter. I deleted social media. I deleted all of it. I don't have anything. We don't have a Manchester football account anymore. We don't have a Coach Farrell account anymore. It's all gone. We are 0 dark 30 and 0 dark infinity, because I don't see myself going back unless like a manager, because you do want to celebrate the kids. There's a fine line.
Right.
You do want to celebrate the kids and celebrate their successes.
Like that's what they want. You know,
so maybe if I can have a manager who I can trust to maybe run it, or like an assistant coach who I can trust, hey, here's our game, post the final score, post a little bit of stats, post some offseason accolades. That's it. We don't need hype videos. Like I wish I could talk to myself when I talked to you guys a few years ago, because I am of this ilk now, where there's our motto this past year. It's on my wristband: integrity over ego. I am of this. Coach Fentz, actually, him and I are really close, the head coach at New Egypt, and we kind of just came up with it talking.
He's been on.
Yeah, he's the man. And we kind of just came up with IOE together. And I was like, Coach, do you mind if I actually like put this on the back of our shirts? Because I think we needed to hear that after winning a championship. So it's everything is integrity over ego. And to start, it has to start with me as the head coach. And I'm going to get rid of my social media because that's ego driven. Again, there's a fine line, but I want to be, I want to be a role model for these men. I want to be, a better husband and a better father to my family. And I'm not doing that by doom scrolling on my phone or posting pics from the game that we lost to Brick 43-0. We're going to do things the right way with integrity, and we're going to go shovel driveways. We're going to go do community service and play bingo in our senior communities. You're going to go and get extra help period 5 instead of coming to the weight room, which we need to be in the weight room this offseason, but you're going to go and get extra help first. It's very, I don't know. I cringe looking at some of the things I've done the first few years, and I don't cringe at the championship, obviously, because that was special and I'll never forget it. Definitely a core memory. But I just cringe at the way the things I guess I was focused on that wasn't what's best for these young men. So what I've learned, being more present instead of getting more clicks, I guess you can say, and just kind of leading by example for that. Like I said, it's kind of almost like an epiphany in a way, but I think, and that was before the 1-9 season. Obviously, if I still had the same mentality going 1-9, we wouldn't be posting as much anyway. There was not a lot to post about, Yeah, I think just that. I don't know, like I said, if it's everything that happened over the summer or, just being a father now of a 2-year-old, me and Derek have, Avery and Kira are like best friends. I don't know. It kind of changes your outlook on what's really important. And I think going 0 dark 30 for us has been good, and I don't see it changing anytime soon.
I think that's a good point.
And it's very weird. It's very ironic saying that on a podcast live streamed on YouTube. I get that. It's like we're living in the Matrix. I don't want to do media, but here I am telling the media I'm not going to do it,
Yeah. Well, there is certain things that it's hard to get around, period. Like, because that's part of the way some things are communicated, right? So some of it's difficult from that standpoint. But I get what you're saying. Like, hey, we won this, putting that out there, and in your mind, like, what message is that sending to the players? And thinking back, were you only because I've coached in every environment's different, so I'm not saying I know what your environment is, but I coached in a situation where I used to always feel that when we won, the players had a possibility that they would think they were better than they were. Not that they weren't good, but they didn't have enough experience with winning consistently to understand what it was like to be able to win and handle the things that come along with winning, and it's not just social media aspects. It's, nobody thought you were that cool in the school, and now everybody thinks you're cool. You know what I'm saying? Like that's hard. Like girls.
Winning isn't easy.
Girls become a hard thing. For boys.
Absolutely. I was going to say winning isn't easy, but building something meaningful is harder.
It is.
Building something meaningful harder, and adversity is hard to deal with when you're in it every single day, like we were. Whether it was injuries, whether it was our record. We had some staff changes. Our new athletic director, Chris Hoffman, who's the man, has been doing great for me. That was his first fall as an athletic director. So I truly believe that going through a season like this will make us better moving forward as players, as coaches, and this community, I think, needed that. And I still wouldn't change a thing for the world. It's still an honor to be the Manchester head football coach. So I don't know. Like I said, it's like we're in the Matrix. Like I'm in the Matrix. Like I love winning. I want to brag about the successes of our kids and our programs that we had in recent years. But also that was more than a year ago. Like that is now past history.
Right.
What are we going to do to get better from 1-9, and how are we going to be in the 2026 season? That's my job. And we're not going to talk about it. We're going to be about it. But again, this past season taught us a lot for sure.
What are things that you think that you had to do. So let's take, look, obviously there's, I'm a big believer in that. Like there's, there are certain levels, there's culture and there's development as far as physically.
Mhm.
And there's also obviously certain levels of talent. Like some years
Right.
you're in a public school. It's not like you can go get
There's
every
ebbs
guy
and
you
flows.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of it's dictated to who you get, and you got to
Mhm.
work with sometimes, and sometimes you have not as much talent as you had the year before, and you're trying to maximize what you have, right?
Yeah.
So that's
It's tough.
that's just the truth in sports. And listen, especially when you're driven as a coach, like, believe me, I'd be the first person. I never bought it. I never would buy into that, even if it was true. Okay. That I didn't
Yeah.
have as much. I would never buy into it because I'd be trying to figure out how we were going to get it done. But those are sometimes realities that, like, maybe you have a young class or whatever it is. What do you think going forward? Like, are there things that, from a physical standpoint, things you starting to change or do, like whatever
Mhm.
you did, strength and conditioning wise or speed, whatever it is, off season
Yeah.
wise? Are there things that you're like, okay, this was good for this group, but now you know what, we need to do something a little different, or add to this or subtract, whatever it is?
That's a good question. Good coaching is good teaching. And I pride myself on being a teacher as well. I'm not a college coach where it's coaching 24/7, call me crazy. I enjoy the off season.
Right.
I kind of like the mundane. Now look, you're still having college coaches come in and you're always working as a head football coach. Don't get me wrong, but I like take a breath and slow down. I can go home after weight room and spend the time with my wife and my daughter,
Right.
What you just said hit the nail on the head. Everything I've done will not work for every team in the next 30 years. You got to differentiate as a teacher. You got to differentiate as a coach. So the off-season, like I've learned the off-season program that, led us to our division championship in 2024 is a little too tough for the kids I have right now. Like a little more, I don't want to say more demanding. I want to say I'm more now teaching lifting instead of implementing it. We're not doing hang cleans once a week. We're doing hang clean progressions. We are benching and squatting every week because those are important. I'm incorporating more plyometrics, more jumps and pulls because that is good for the body, especially in the off season. Nutrition. I've never really focused on nutrition before, and it's hard to focus on nutrition at a very diverse small group 2 program where we're very, I guess you can say eclectic is the word. We have Whiting, which is very rural. We have Lakehurst, which is very military based. And then we have, apartments in Manchester and then suburbia and Pine Lake. A lot of different clienteles of people that come through to Manchester. So I can't tell one kid, hey, eat grilled chicken, rice, and veggies every day, and then tell that to the same kid. You got to differentiate amongst your kids. And I'm kind of good with making them accountable of it. So like, hey guys, you want something specific? Come ask me. I'm not making 65 different weightlifting and nutrition plans. I will do what I think is best for. I don't go by grade groups by grade levels in the weight room or even playing time. I go by what's your max at this level, and you work with people of similar strength. That could be a freshman and a senior. I know I'm rambling off of your answer, but I think you need to differentiate more and more, and you can't just rely on, I did this program in 22, I'm going to do it in 23, I'm going to do it in, you're always, just like you're always changing the playbook, you're always changing your off-season program. And I do grade checks I call it Black Mondays. Like NFL has the Black Monday when all the coaches get fired after the regular.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Every Monday is Black Monday if we're in school, whether it's in season or off season. I'm checking grades. If you get an email from me on Monday, that's probably not a good thing. Right. So I'm always on top of their grades too. And I tell them it's the off season. I have more time to focus on your grades, So I'm always checking grades. Weight room is big. And then as we get closer to the summer and 7-on-7 season, the lifts become a little more demanding. And then we'll max out right before 7-on-7s, and we'll use those numbers to now take us into training camp in the summer. But to go off your point, you always got to differentiate. We absolutely, as a program going off last year, we need to improve everything. We need to be stronger. We need to be more physical. How do you teach physicality in the off season? It's hard to. but you can teach them how to freaking grind in the weight room and forcing your bodies to be uncomfortable. So we'll do that. And again, that's on me as the head coach to put them in positions to be successful, you know, come summertime.
No doubt. Do you think that there's like, do you have a philosophy of like, there's a certain base level that you think they need to be at before they can progress to, you know, different things from a weight room standpoint or speed?
Yeah. I went to a couple years ago at the Glazier Clinic. I went to the Army football strength and conditioning coach. And I still talk about it to Derek all the time. Like, he opened my eyes. Like, you can't expect every 8th grader going into freshman year to expect you to know what you're talking about. Like, they might not even know what a burpee is, or an incline bench, or a dumbbell row.
They definitely don't know what a burpee is now.
Cadet, like, no, but even like at Army, they pretend their cadets don't know anything. And obviously they have some sort of knowledge, or they wouldn't have got accepted into West Point. But if our United States military is treating the cadets like they don't know jack, you know what, then why would I expect more from an 8th grader at Manchester Township? Right. So I don't have a baseline for what I want them to hit. However, I'm a big stickler on push-ups. If you can't do a certain amount of push-ups, don't think you're going to be a successful football player. Call me old school. Maybe that's my dad and our dad's talking, Derek. But like, if you can't do a push-up, a decent amount of them, no matter how big you are, we got a problem. And that's something you can work on every single day when you wake up. You wake up, chug a glass of water, brush your teeth, do 25 push-ups. So no, I don't have like baseline bench press, hang clean, back squats, deadlifts. I don't. Just freaking be in shape, take care of your bodies, man. And I'll make sure you're in the right place to get into the season.
How do you guys have a weight room program? Like, these amount of days I got to be in there. Like, what are you able to make? Are you able to make it mandatory? And what are you able to do there?
Yeah, so I run our weight room in the winter, the spring, and the summer. One of our assistant track coaches will run it in the fall, or soccer coach will run it in the fall when I'm coaching football. But yeah, no, I try my best to make it mandatory for kids who are not playing a sport. Yeah. And we'll be in there 4 days a week. 5 if there's no department meetings or faculty meetings or anything like that. I'll try to get these kids in 4 days a week. And if you're not playing a sport, I'm taking attendance, and they know, unless you want to go to extra help or study hall, and I see an email from that teacher, or you let me know beforehand. Of course, you're going to have doctor's appointments and things like that. But we want to hold these kids accountable 365 days out of the year, not just July to end of October. And it starts in the weight room. And, there will always be kids that ask me, which is great and all well and good. Coach, I have a gym membership. I want to go with my older brother to the gym. Go with him tonight. There's something to be said about bonding with your teammates in the weight room and sweating together and grinding together. So you can you can even ask me, hey, coach, I know we did chest today and we benched. Like, what do you think I should do with my brother tonight when I go to the gym? Hit some abs, hit some cardio, do some jumps. We got to jump more. I'm starting to be a big believer.
It's amazing how many kids can't jump rope, to be honest. It's a big thing. I saw somebody post it the other day. I reposted it. It was so fun. It was like, hey, how many of your 8th graders can actually jump rope? It's like, you can't. It's part of our warm up. Like, we've incorporated it just to kind of get some of those movements and things. Call it, like you said, call it old school, call it whatever. Dave and I talk about the lack of physical activity just in gym classes across the nation. Like, it is what it is. Like, they just don't do these things. And some of these little things are really important when it comes to some of it.
Look, I'm not in the best shape of my life. I should probably be doing more cardio than anything, but I will lift with the kids. I'll get under a bench press. I'll put myself through a strength workout. They'll make fun of me if I try to get on the elliptical for a little bit.
That's that young coach, Dave. That's that young guy still in him.
Well, not even that. Like, I need to do
it while you can, buddy, because that shit goes away. I'll tell you that.
I'll lift. I can't do cardio. I mean, I'll try to hit the elliptical or the bike just because I never rehabbed my knee properly from tearing that in college. So like, running really bothers it, but I'll still try to do some cardio, but I'll always lift with them. But going off a jump rope, and Derek, I will jump rope. Like, not the best in shape guy. I'm, definitely don't have abs anymore, but I can probably get on a jump rope for 2 or 3 minutes for sure. That's just something, like you said, we were grown up with doing. But you also want to, I think it's so cool. Like, I played for Coach Duddy, And I think when he might get mad at me. I think when he was my coach, he was in his mid-50s. I just always remember him saying, I know 55-year-old boys and 17-year-old men. He was always like speaking in like riddles. But we would be stretching for say 15 minutes before practice, and the guy's just doing push-ups and sit-ups in a t-shirt. I was like, that's freaking cool. Like, my coach is grinding with us physically. Why can't I? So I try to do that as well. I used to condition with them. I don't do that anymore. Not since I became a dad, getting not a lot of sleep. But there's something to be said if you can not only make them grind together, but you also grind with them. I have a volunteer assistant coach, Coach Hackett, who's also a state trooper. And he does it with them, but he'll also put them through what he did in like the academy. I'm like, yo, God bless, man. You guys can do all the air raids and floods all you want, up, downs, burpees, sprints, piggybacks, and all that. God bless. So it's, yeah.
Interesting.
The schools of thought are different. And Dave,
yeah, so
we've talked to so many guys. It's just everybody's got their own way to do it, their niche of everything. And
you also have to fit your Jimmies and your Joes too, right? Like, I've been at other different, I've always been with smaller schools, right? So I've been at New Egypt, Parsippany, and Shore, group 1s and 2s, but what I'm doing with Manchester, I might not have been doing at Parsippany. Right. If I was an assistant coach, at a Catholic school, I'm probably doing something a little different than what I'm doing at Manchester.
Well,
you gotta differentiate to the Jimmies and the Joes of what you have. You can't be stubborn and say, this is what worked for me in 2022. I'm doing this in 2026. Or this is what worked for me in high school in 2012. I'm doing this. You can't, there's going to be ebbs and flows.
Which is something we always talk about, because most coaches coach the way they were coached.
Right. Well, look, our team motto is dig, which is what my motto was in college. So there's something to be said with, if it ain't broke, don't fix it either. Or what you know is what you know,
Mm-hmm. I think it's important to continuously evolve. I think that's to what you got, what you have, and what your guys are. And when I think of things like jumping rope or push-ups, the way that they develop physically now, they're not doing those things.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually even a progression to that part of it for them.
Absolutely.
So like
their bodies are so stiff.
Yeah.
So you got to do more yoga. You got to do more recovery.
Well, they got to do before they can do a push-up. They've got to be able to hold the position before they can actually do a push-up.
1000%.
And then they got to be able to hold the position at the bottom before they can do a push-up. And then they got to be able to hold it midway before they can do a push. Like, there's a lot of for them, because it's not like as ingrained in physical, and then they get to a core part, where they can actually then do a push-up, right? And then and then their second push-up is not able to be done, right? So it's like a outside. And the same thing with jumping rope. Like, the thing I don't know if I told. Did I ever tell you about the David Weck stuff? I don't know if you ever. Derek, I don't know.
No,
but like he's a little bit like he's got all this like different things. He's the guy that invented the Bosu ball, the half thing,
Yeah.
So he's kind of like into like cutting edge stuff, and some stuff people think are crazy, but some of it's really good. And like he has like these pulsers that like you could use to get teach you how to get rhythm with running, and or for boxers or anything that's like rhythm based, right? Jumping rope is rhythm based, right? So it's not just about athleticism, but it's rhythm based. And like he has these ropes that are actually jumpless. You can use as jump ropes, but could start off as flexible jumpless jumping ropes, where you move from side to side to get the rhythm of it, and then you can start to, as they start to jump without it, then they start to jump in it. And it's really interesting because I've seen how that can work, like, because most kids don't jump rope when they're younger, right? They almost none of them are jumping rope in gym class. It's a rare gym class that's actually doing that. So when you teach them to jump rope, they're almost fearful of jumping rope because they haven't done it. This rope's coming around. I don't know, but you could do things to get them in the rhythm of it, and then they start to be able to jump rope once they start to have it. And that's kids. You could have kids that don't know how to jump rope that actually can jump. That's the crazy part. Like kids who can actually jump cannot do the rhythm of jumping rope. which is something that you would have never thought of that could possibly be 20 years ago. You've been like, that doesn't make any sense.
And look, we have a great track program here at Manchester.
Yes.
I mean, South Group 2, Shore Conference, like they have like 4-peat t-shirts and sweatshirts walking around. And I am of the ilk where I want you to play 3 sports, to the point where Manchester agrees so much that we actually have a triple threat Hawk banquet to celebrate all of the 3-sport athletes.
That's amazing.
Love that.
Wow.
Which I
That's
really
cool.
love.
That's really cool.
So I will always tell my kid, like, look, if you don't want to play a sport, I'm not going to force you, but please just try track. If I know you're lifting 4 or 5 days a week. It's going to teach you how to run. You're going to be on a championship team. Coach Griff, who's been here for a long time, is awesome. All of his assistant coach know what they're doing. And I know you're going to be getting stronger and faster while also being a championship program. So I will always push my kids to go be a part of the track team if, they're not already have hopes for, basketball, wrestling, baseball, whatever.
Do they do track? Do you have a lot of your guys on the track team?
I do. Yeah, I do. Whether it's jumping, sprinting, just more sprinting and jumping, and throws for sure. I'm all for it. And Coach Griff, knows it too. He'll text me and he'll just send me random YouTube clips, and which I agree with him, of like, this NFL player talks about how much high school track, developed him. This 5-star talked about. Yeah, I'm like, Coach Griff, I agree.
You're like, man. You don't have to sell me. You're like,
you don't got to sell me. You don't have to tell me. And then like, there will be times where we're in the off-season weight room and like, the track coaches are walking through and they're like, why aren't you doing track? I'm like, I told them we should be, so, and I also just love to like go play as many sports as possible. A lot of sports complement football. They Absolutely. Do. So go play sports and don't have regrets, seriously, go for it. And I love that you
don't have that much time to do it.
In 2026, I love that we're still honoring those 3 sports athletes.
Yeah, that's
and
really
we're not celebrating specialized individual sports, I was a 2-sport athlete. I was football, baseball. I attempted basketball my freshman year of high school, but I was a bull in a china shop, and I think I used all my 5 fouls in the first quarter. And at Donovan too, we also had a powerlifting team, so I was able to do that in the winter.
Which is something we've brought up recently about, like, I've actually talked to guys about, like, why don't we have more of this, in using this podcast to network and talk to guys, in different states where powerlifting is a big thing. It's really looked at as like a winter sport. Like, it's just so different than, there's a formalization to it and whatnot, and how it's just, it's better. But like, Dave and I have always been on the multi-sport thing, whether it's because we were multi-sport guys and saw what it did for us when it comes to it. Like, even with our club, 7-on-7 teams and our flag leagues, like, we're always pushing the younger kids to, man, like, you can play on the 7-on-7 team, but go do other sports too. Like, keep playing your lacrosse, keep hooping, keep playing baseball. Like, this can be a secondary thing for it, right? Like, try not to specialize until you're at a point where, all right, this is going to be my sport. And it's a conversation that we have all the time, going back and forth of, when is the time for a kid to really get into the specialization? But for me, like, dude, just play as many sports as you can, because there's not many that you can continue to do outside of high school in an organized setting like that. You only have 4 years of those opportunities. So go do it, or at least try it. And then if you don't like it, okay. But at least you said, hey, I gave it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. 1000% agree.
No doubt about it. So as you, because you talked about like how you got rid of social media and what's the important things that you want them to hone in on for this year? Like, what are the things that you are developing that you think will make hopefully a bigger difference, around this year's team?
Yeah, good question. So like, our team mantra, and like I said this before, I took from Stonehill is keep digging, discipline, intellect, and grit. But then each year I kind of have like a season motto, if you will. Last year was integrity over ego. I think the year before that was jobs not finished, because we just came up short in the division championship in 23. This year, 2026, is going to be elevate. Elevate everything you do, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's with community service, in the weight room, on the field. Everything you've done last year in 2025, elevate it somehow. Because what we did last year did not work. And again, it's my job as the head coach and my assistants' jobs to make sure they're in the right mindset that you just can't show up and expect to be a successful football team. You can't just show up and think you're going to, turn it on. And I have to do not that I don't hold these kids accountable. I do, but I think I need to move towards, like I'm thinking about making a team contract this year and making them put pen to paper what I'm looking for from an accountability and a standard driven mindset, whether it's academics, community service, being responsible for your football equipment. If you can't ride the bus, I gotta have an email from a parent, everything I put on Google Classroom, for daily reminders, I'm just going to make them put pen to paper. So holding kids accountable for a championship standard program, which we are a championship program, whether that was 2 years ago or not. Manchester has won a division championship. And I will say that till I'm blue in the face. Yes, because it was awesome. 2, because it's never happened before. But 3, because that's who we are now, and that's what we expect.
We've created a standard.
Coach Suman, I appreciate the kind words in the beginning, like when you introduced me. But yes, Manchester had struggled in the beginning of its program and struggled for a long time. But that was a different Manchester. As long as I'm here, we're not gonna talk about that. We're gonna focus on what we did. That we had great senior leadership last year too. Like the seniors this past year who struggled and still won their last game, but a lot of them were contributors on that championship team, so they knew what to expect. And they implemented that as best as they could with the young cats. I'd like to think now these guys have such a bad taste in their mouth, they're not going to do what they did last year. They are going to change their approach. For example, like we're changing up our offense entirely. I'm going to be calling I love letting my coaches coach. Don't get me wrong. I'm blessed with an amazing staff. I've told you guys this before. I have 3 former head coaches on my staff, which is awesome as a young cat doing this. But I've also maybe let my coaches coach too much, where like I'm kind of just calling timeouts on the sideline. And I'd rather live and die by the sword of my sword, So we're going to be changing up our offense a lot. I'm going to be calling it. We're going to be, Manchester is the new fast. We're going to condition the heck out of them in the summer. We're not going to be huddling up that much, and we're going to be go, go, go. Not because that's what I want to do, but because that's what the personnel we have. We had the personnel the last few years to be 21 pro eye, under center, run the ball, open it up with play action because we had a couple good receivers and a good quarterback. Now we have a quarterback who can spin it, an experienced O-line, and a majority of our skill guys coming back. So let's have fun and let's change it up, because obviously, one win is not good. and averaging, less than 10 points a game is not going to get it done. So I needed to look at myself in the mirror and say, what is best for this program? And I needed to kind of I need to be more hands-on as a head coach. And as much as I love my coaches and trust my coaches, at the end of the day, it's what I think is best. And that's where we're going to go right now. So.
Well, your name is on it as the head coach. If you were to ask me, I would always say that's how you should be. But
yes.
Right, Derek?
Yes.
Because
we just had this conversation about like a head coach who calls
Derek
offense or defense.
Like Derek did my defense, obviously, and really did a good job. And when I was serving my ridiculous 1-week suspension, he ran the whole team for us, because Derek has been around me enough to know kind of the standard of what I would expect. So my thing was I always felt like I needed to be controlled, but also have a person, and for me it was Derek when I was at RBR, that I know if something happens, he could go in and run the team. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And it's not just, it happened to be I got suspended, but it's, it could be I was sick, you know what I'm saying? It could be, something happened, right? A family emergency, right? You could have anything, you could have a lot of things.
And that's what I'm not going to get into details, but that's what happened over the summer,
right.
Having 3 former head coaches on my staff, and Gerard O'Donnell, who's the winningest coach in Manchester. He's my defensive coordinator. Lamar Davenport, who was the head coach at Asbury Park for a year or two, and had success there. Now he's my co-DC / wide receivers D-backs. And Bob Masseri, who's been a head coach and more fingers and toes that I have, and was my dad's head coach in the 80s.
Right.
And you could argue he has more energy than the youngest guys on the staff.
Right.
Wild,
So
bro.
to have those 3 different
a lot like your
experiences,
dad, right? David, I compare him a lot like to your pops. Like he's the elder statesman on the group, but buddy, he brings it like every day.
Absolutely. So to rely on my staff in a tough family time, in July and August, not what you want and as a coach, at that part of the year, but I had full faith in my staff, and you rewind to 2023 when Kira was born. She was born the day before we played Asbury Park, and my coaches took it. OD was kind of the interim, and he kind of took over practice. I did only call timeouts that game. I didn't even give the pregame speech. That's false enthusiasm. I wasn't there all week.
Right.
So to have that trust in your assistants is everything. It's everything. And I'm
I think it's important. And at the same time, you have your like I said, you have the control that you need, that you feel most comfortable with in running your program. Like that's, to me, always like you're being true to yourself at the same time that you have someone prepped and ready to go, and or that you just know you have the confidence in.
Yep.
Like I don't recommend getting suspended, but I will say for the record, it was the most ridiculous thing that has ever happened to me in coaching.
It was a hell of a way to walk into the building on a Monday afternoon at 2:30.
It was
the walk through the door to the walk back out the door of like, hey, come with me to my car quick. Like I gotta let you know.
But everybody gets theirs, Derek, and I'll tell you how. Everybody gets theirs because you know who is no longer the principal of that school?
Interesting.
That guy.
Interesting.
He is no longer the principal. They removed him. So everybody see when I'm a big believer of this. Like listen, not that anybody doesn't do wrong. We all make mistakes. We all do wrong things. But I think when someone purposely does something, God has a way of like, making sure that score is somehow evened out. And I always felt that was.
Mm-hmm.
That was the case there, but I was shocked. The only reason I found out, by the way, Derek, is because my father is going into the Satterbrook. Satterbrook's so messed up. They created so I'm in the Football Hall of Fame, but now they didn't have
a school Hall of Fame.
They did not have a school Hall of Fame, which I did not know. Okay, this is where I went to high school, coach, and so my father taught there for 40 plus years.
Ever.
And they created a committee, and he's in the first, like he was there in the early 70s, the first class of going in as a coach. He's going in.
Right.
Well, I would hope so. Isn't the track named after him, for Christ's sake?
Yes. But there's a bunch of guys from the 60s.
You can't have something named after you and not be in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, right. Well,
that's literally been coaching on a track that's named
they're
after
going
him,
into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
That also tells you you're old, by the way.
Right.
And the other guy that's going in that was a coach is no longer alive, unfortunately. But what was interesting about it was is that he goes and he says to me, he goes, yeah, this guy Pete Riggy is going, and he was from the I think late 60s, early 70s, and like he works down by you. I think he's the interim principal at Red Bank Regional. And I'm
he was my interim superintendent at Shore Regional. I know.
Okay.
I know Dr. Riggy. Yeah.
He's a phenomenal guy. He's from before my era. He's from my high school.
Yep.
And he played in the pros for a little bit. He went to Temple. Like in my hometown, like he was like one of the first two. There were two original superstar, you know how your school has like originals.
Yeah.
He was one of the first two original star athletes ever in my high school, when it was open. And so he was the Rumson superintendent for a very long time.
There you go.
Yep.
And then when he
Derek,
retired,
he became the interim superintendent when my dad left Shore to go to Brick.
Okay.
And then during COVID, there used to be, I don't know the rule, but like before COVID, there was a cap. You can only be an interim for like a year or two.
Right.
And because of COVID, that kind of all stopped.
500 a day.
But because of COVID, that kind of all stopped. So he was the interim when I was there in the 21-22 school year. And then when the board meeting where I resigned from Shore to take the Manchester job was the board meeting where they hired their next superintendent. So me and Riggy were there together at Shore. He's a good dude.
He's aces. And it's funny because my father's like, well, if he
wild.
was there when you were at Red Bank, you'd have been in good shape. I said, well, he
You're
was
like,
not
well,
there.
he wasn't. We
He
were
was
in
not
great
there when I
shape,
was there at Red
but
Bank.
things changed, right?
But I didn't realize that you actually worked with him. Yeah, like I was like, man, I wish I knew that Ricky was down here when I was down here the whole time. But yeah, it's really really interesting. I'll tell you this. I think it's very hard being. By the way, it was the best thing that ever happened to me too when I was young and I was a head coach, because you learn a lot really really fast, like
Absolutely.
really really fast, and
Definitely faster than you'd like, but
yeah, well, yeah, but it's also like it's a good thing, because I think you're going to be coaching for a very very long time. Hopefully,
I hope so.
all works out well,
If it
and
doesn't kill me.
you 10 years from now, you'll be like in this insane coach because of the things you learn in your first few years as being a head coach, because it's when you're thrown in the fire, you immediately, like, you can go back and you can probably like write down, okay, these was the things I did really well that year. This was the thing I did not do. Like, and it's kind of like glaring to you, and you're like, wow, I can't believe I did that. And now I'm doing this, and it's there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And having obviously been an assistant as well, like, there's a ton you can learn as an assistant. You're learning from mentors in a lot of cases, which is obviously very helpful. But when you actually are thrown into it, it's like, oh my God, like every decision you make has an effect on the program.
1,000%. I'll never forget it was actually when I worked at NFL Films for 1 year in 2018. That was my first year coaching at New Egypt. And I actually helped, very small, very, very, very small role, helped with the 2018 Hard Knocks, which was the Cleveland Browns. And the one line that always sticks out to me from that 2018 Hard Knocks with the Browns was Coach Hugh Jackson. And there was kind of like a disagreement amongst assistants, or maybe an assistant was talking to whatever it was. And he goes, when you get to sit in the big chair, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But until then, you don't sit in the big chair and you don't know what I'm talking about. And it was kind of just like,
right,
if you've never done it before, kind of just trust me,
right.
Just trust the guy. And obviously it's tongue in cheek, but like, trust the guy sitting in the big chair and know that the guy in the big chair is the one calling the shots.
Right.
And you don't realize that until you're thrown into the fire. I kind of compare it to, never bartended in my life. I go to Syracuse, my master's degree. My dad says, I got you a bartending job. I go, Dad, I never bartended before. I go there. I move in around the 4th of July. And the owner goes, oh, have you bartended before? I go, no, not really. No. And he was like, okay, great. You're working tonight. I go, sir, it's 4th of July. He goes, perfect. You're working 6 to close. He goes, this is $5. This is $4. This is $3. The best way to learn is to be thrown into it. And he wasn't wrong. I mean, you struggle in the beginning a little bit, and then you
figure it out real quick.
And there you go. And it's kind of the same thing. So
there's no,
and look, you're a lifelong learner. You don't get into education or coaching to get all of the answers. Coach Masseri, who's on my staff, who's in his mid-70s, he's still learning. I will never, just your playbook is always changing and evolving. I will always be changing and evolving, because that's not what I don't want the kids to have the same coach. Coach Duddy, my high school coach, said all the time, if you drive the same way home every day, you're just the same old man. Now, my dad, Mr. Philosopher would say, well, maybe I like the man I am, and I want to drive the same home every day. But it's tongue in cheek for, always be willing to change if that's what's best for what you want to do and the man you are and the kids you're coaching. And that'll always be me. I will always be evolving. I'll always be changing. Because I look back to a few years ago and I'm like, oh, I can't even, like, what was I doing? Like, I'm even at the, I wore a shirt and tie, first few years, except a couple of games that was like really, really cold. But that's more of an, a testament to my dad, who wore a shirt and tie when he coached at New Egypt. But then I realized, integrity over ego. I don't think I'm going to wear a shirt and tie anymore, because that's making me an individual and I'm not matching my staff. So I might be getting away from the shirt and tie, things like that. Like you said, you're always changing, you're always evolving, you're learning. And I think that's another thing. I can't preach integrity over ego and not wear the same thing my coaching staff is wearing. That's putting me in the individual category, and that's not what I'm about anymore. So Little things like that. Little things like that.
True to who you are, as you more and more continue to say, this is more my stance on who I am, or this is as that always evolves, you do things that, because I always think that other people look at you, if you're true to who you are, other people will they may not agree with you, but they will be like, okay, I know where this guy stands. I know what, kind of know what he's about. You know what I mean? And the hardest thing as a young coach is no young coach does not want to be liked. I was like that.
Eric, does this conversation sound familiar?
Yeah, every young coach wants to be liked, and I was like Mr. And Derek knows me for a long time. I'm kind of, I would say I'm like a slight rebel in that, like, I never really always gave a shit to begin with, but there's still that part of you, especially when you're young, right? Because
1,000%. And I would even say, I don't want to say I'm sensitive. I think there's a negative connotation to that. I'm emotional and I'm passionate.
Should be.
That's the Italian side in me. The Irish side would say, who cares? This is who I am. The Italians, we kind of care to a degree, to an extent, and my AD jokes around and goes, we need to make you a little meaner. We need to toughen you up a little bit. And I agree, but I also this is who I am. I do wear my heart on my sleeve. I do care what people think to an extent. I mean, and
you're empathetic to others.
That's the word. I think it's you're extremely empathetic.
Right. So
absolutely. That's that matrix again. That's that matrix thing again, where you want to do what you do, and you want to put your head on the pillow knowing I'm doing it this way because I think it's right for the kids and this is what I believe in. But then there's that other person on your shoulder saying, yeah, but what if they don't agree with that? Are you doing the right thing? And it's that back and forth, just like I said with no media. I'm telling you guys, I don't want to do any more media on a media show. It's that matrix we're living in. It's that constant back and forth, one shoulder versus the other, but you can only you can take it one day at a time and do what you think is the best you can do. And that's it.
That's what makes it. And by the way, when your daughter gets older, then you'll start to, you'll probably have another, okay, how much am I putting into this? What am I putting into this? Like that happened to me with my son. And I was like, okay, I wanted to dedicate more time to him and those kind of. So you go through these different phases of things, and even at athletically with your own kids, I'm like, oh wow, he's really good at this, and then and he's not that good at this, and I'm trying to figure that out, and then when you add into mix when you're how much of it are you pouring into your kids versus how much you pour it into others, and there's. But that's what's so great about it is that you constantly figure out what's your priority, what's your main priority, how what's your percentage in your bucket to this and your percentage in your bucket to that. Even though you want 100% to be into everything, right? You would you like to say I can put 100% in this, 100% in that, but that's the great challenge of it all. It's very cool. Listen, it's hard. It's hard when you have so much success really quickly. I would say that you had a lot of success really fast, right? Blessing
and a curse. Who doesn't want that success? But then
it ends up teaching you.
Right. It ends up teaching, and if you learn something from that stuff, then it's you know what I mean? It's totally worth it, right? Whereas if you had just kind of same type of thing, we're just going to continue to do what we do because it's what we did and it helped and we won, and you don't evolve and you don't tweak some things and change some things, then I mean, we literally just had this conversation this morning about this. If you're not changing or evolving, getting yourself better and looking at different things and changing this or tweaking this or doing that, are you really a good coach because you're just going to kind of stay the same? You might continue to win, that's okay, but what are your players getting from it? You're not growing as a human, you're just doing the same old. I think part of the evolution of why we get into this is to do that stuff, is to constantly help and change and tweak and do all those things.
When you're a great athlete, where you're a really good athlete, and the first time you face someone that might be better than you, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, Like you could, there's a couple of ways you can go with it, right? And obviously the really good athletes, they fight through it. They might deal with a loss in that point, and then they were like, okay, I now know more of what I got to do because this person was better than I was, or I thought I was really good, and now I realize, oh my goodness, like I had to learn this, this, and this to be great. Like, and that's, I think coaching does that. Like, it constantly humbles you. Like you get into this
Constantly.
rolling,
So
and then
much.
you're like, I thought I had athletes, and then all of a sudden you face someone that really has athletes, and you're like, oh shit. You're like,
And
like
the amount of preparation that goes into those 9 or 10 games.
yeah.
And if you're blessed to play more than 10, the amount of preparation to go into 2 hours. I mean, like the staff phone calls, the Zoom meetings, the film prep, the practices, the constant text message in your coaches group chat. Then you get on. I always do a Thursday night Zoom with my quarterback. We go through all the checks, and then boom, you go on Friday. The game's over. We're like, what about all that prep work we just did? And we didn't see half of it, probably. You know, you talk about humbling. You know, 1 and 9 humbles you, but then you realize the amount of prep. I think Coach Tierney from Pineland said it in the preseason. He said you put in like 30,000 hours of work for 300 hours of game time in a season, something like 30 hours of what into a season. Just very humbling, humbling for sure. Got to have thick skin.
No, you know, I listen. One of the best coaching jobs I ever did, in retrospect, was a team that was 1 and 9. It's because I prepared the other team that would come from it. Those kids learned the things that were important that ended up helping the team 3 years later be in the state championship.
100%.
I had 4 freshmen that played on that team that ended up playing in the state 2 years later, played in the state championship. And you know, it was like if you weren't taking the approach to build for the long term, and you went 1 and 9, and you're just like, like I was living for that year, then that group of kids that you're playing earlier and developing them, they won't see the fruits down the line. So, sometimes there's, one step back to go 2 steps forward, and it works that way.
Yeah.
And,
and I don't want to completely throw, the baby out with the bathwater with the past season. Like there were glimpses, like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
There were absolutely things that we're going to build off of, like maybe not Brick was our worst loss, 43 Rock, but there were close games, like Toms River East, Barnegat, Monmouth Regional.
And you ended on a high note, which I think is the most important part of it. It's like you went out in a tight, gritty game that showed
night
like,
in
hey,
the
man,
30-degree weather,
like there's a lot of adversity
away.
and whatever. And look, they could have thrown that game out and just been like, look, it's over. We're done with, like, screw it. Like, but no, they fought, they got back in it, and you ended on a high note to now lead you into, next season. And you have everything in place, to move forward. So that's the most important. Buddy, I can't thank you enough, buddy.
Yeah.
No,
thanks for coming on. It's great talking to you. It really is. It's very interesting, by the way, seeing you 2.5, 3 years later. It really, to me at least, being an old guy,
I appreciate
it is like it's like you were, if you watch it back then, like half of your stuff was coach speak, in the sense that because you learned a certain amount of things that the way to be, right? And now you have also begun to learn, like, okay, I got to start to figure out what I want to get across in my messaging, which you are nailing. Like this is what I want my messaging to be. And that's, it's awesome. And hopefully if we do this we should do this every 2 or 3 years, because then we, we could get,
you guys got the exclusive.
One day when I die.
Yes.
February 3rd, 2029. Let's book it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to, because that's cool. Like it's cool to see that. And you probably will look back and you'll be like, this is how I was back then. Okay.
Yeah.
This is how. The only thing that's going to change is you probably might have been at your handsomest when you were when you get the iteration.
Oh, you see the grays in there. I'm 31. I got some grays in here. Yeah.
That
Well,
will change
that's what
over
1 and
time.
9 will do to you, buddy. That's what 1 and 9 will do.
Yeah, for sure.
Over time, you might get grayer. Maybe not as slim as you are right now, and all those.
Yeah,
kind of
amen
things.
to that.
But that's okay.
I don't think anyone's called me slim, so I'll take that.
Yeah.
Yo, listen.
Thanks, buddy. Listen,
the camera angle's chest up, so I'm happy.
That's
That's
good.
good.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
The
that's
chest
good.
up angles, man. That's how it works. I would never let I believe me. I wouldn't let them take no full body shot. No way. But
thanks,
Coach,
buddy. I appreciate you coming back on, man. Good luck with everything. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Have a great day.
See you later.
All right, bye.
Be good, man. Be good.
That was awesome. Good stuff, man. It is really interesting to see.
You see the evolution, right? The maturation, just like look, and he's still figuring stuff out. But look, he dealt with a lot of things, man. He dealt with a lot of life things that no one should have to deal with, and he handled it like a man. And he had to step away for a little bit of a week or two here to just deal with some things that just nobody should have to deal with as a father, as a human, but handled it and kind of rolled with it from there, and then a 1 and 9 season, it's a real, it's a real thing. It'll change some things for you. So,
it's a kick in the nuts.
look, I'm proud of him. I love it. I love seeing his maturation process of how it is. It's especially at a place that's not known for having somebody in place that for a longer term of actually developing those real true relationships with people in the building and the kids themselves for the team and the standard. And like you said, that this year was a real blessing because now they understand what it actually takes to win consistently, and not just, oh, you do this and you win. It's no, you got to continue to do this and you got to change and tweak and work harder and do all these other things. The scale of it, I think is awesome, from point A to point B, and you continue to grow and keep going. So it'll be really cool to see kind of how it turns out for him, moving forward.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's interesting that he's taken over. I think just as you start to coach, you start to see what you're most comfortable with and what it is the hardest thing. I remember when Leo took over at Saddlebrook,
right,
and he CEO'd it, right, because he didn't really that's what Darren White did, right?
Well, what works for some doesn't work for you, right? And sometimes you do have to hey, you know what? I need more of a hand in this. And because not that it's, my name's on it. And you know what? I just feel confident in that what I can do will help the team benefit it, right? I don't think he felt like that he was a little timid in terms of hey, I'm young. I'll let these guys do that. I'll handle all this other stuff. But you also saw his focus was that social media stuff. And that's, I think, having a hand in the offense now will even deter him more so from that to kind of stay focused on what needs to really work and not that other stuff. So it's all good, man. I look forward to it, but we got a really good one tomorrow. We're on 12 o'clock tomorrow because she's West Coast time. Head coach of Oregon women's soccer, Tracy Joyner. So talked to her this morning. So it should be I'm stoked.
That's going to be a great, is it 10 o'clock also?
It's 12 p.m. for us because that makes it 9 a.m. her time.
Okay, cool.
So we're ready to rock with that, man. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Talk about a group that has all the facilities.
Holy shit, dude. And every Nike thing you could possibly think of. So amen to that.
No doubt about it. All right,
brother.
Great job. All right.